And welcome to Beyond Focus TV. My name is Angie Daniel and I am the hostess of the show. On tonight's show we have with us Ms. Tatiana. She directs the Haiti Research and Policy Program at the Earth Institute at Columbia University. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'll introduce her to you. We'll be right back.
Beyond Focus TV presents
its third annual ceremony on Saturday, June 16 at the prestigious Crystal Manor,
1460 Flatbush Avenue.
Et oui, le samedi 16 juin 2013, venez célébrer tous les papas. Venez manifester votre amour à votre père, mari, frère, cousin ou ami, pourquoi pas.
Who will be Father of the Year?
You must be there to know. La soirée sera animée par la diva Martine Marseille. Come and bask into the artistry of Monvelino Alexis. DJ Duvet sera aussi de la partie pour vous assurer une soirée à nul autre pareil.
Hollywood style.
Lot of surprises, honorees, un grand gala pour honorer tous les pères. Valet parking will be available.
Maîtresse de cérémonie, Angie Daniel, Marie-Carmel Bastien.
Info 917-873-3996 or www.beyondfocustv.com. Papi chéri.
Oui, ma fifi.
I love you. 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 I love you.
Welcome back to Beyond Focus TV. Earlier on, I mentioned to you that I was going to introduce to you Ms. Tatiana. She is the director of the Research and Policy Program at Columbia University at the Earth Center. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. One of the reasons why I love to talk about different aspects of what's happening within New York City that involves other countries is how we can benefit from it. Mm-hmm. So before we start, I'll have you introduce yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, as you said, I direct the Haiti Research and Policy Program at the Earth Institute within the Center of Globalization and Sustainable Development. The center, through the Earth Institute, has been doing some work since 2006, mm-hmm. actually, but more focused on watershed restoration, integrated development work, sort of crossing all of the sectors and fields mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
In Haiti to really get at a model for holistic integrated development in Haiti.
Okay, I mean, I kind of like, that's the broad idea in
mm-hmm.
it. So let's just kind of cut it like piece by piece for the community so they can understand what it is that you guys are doing, this great overall idea
right.
of a job. First, what is the main goal for CGSD in Haiti?
Well, it's segmented into the Research and Policy Program, and the main goal at the Earth Institute, we also house the Millennium Village Project.
I'm going to talk to you about that. Okay. I love the idea.
Okay, so within the Earth Institute, we have over 30 centers, mm-hmm. and these 30 centers cross sectors. So from climate and disaster risk reduction to tropical agriculture to water management to health and education, etc. Mm-hmm. And so So all of these centers, when we work in a country, all of the scientists and researchers get together across these different sectors to deal with a particular country. So, you know, we deal all over, you know, we have over 45 countries that we work with.
Oh, so it's not just Haiti. It's
Oh, no.
like international base.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
So within CGSD, we have a Jordan program, we have a Timor-Leste program. We deal a lot with fragile states, what we call fragile states, the lower income countries.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a Nigeria project. Yeah, it's all over.
On your website, there's like this whole huge mentioning of the watershed. Can you explain to me what that is and how we are, like how we can make that better?
Right. So how we started, because of in our policy, I have to backtrack a little bit.
Yes.
Within our policy program, I was lent to, and you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be me, but it just so happened within our program, I was lent to the Haitian government to help it plan better on to obtain the Millennium Development Goals. These are international goals for low-income countries, so across the globe. And Haiti needed, and they asked, President Préval back then asked Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, for help on attaining the Millennium Development Goals, because within their planning departments in Haiti, they didn't have someone who could help them integrate the sectors together. So they did everything separately.
So don't forget this part, because I want people to understand what are these goals? What does that mean? The Millennium Goals. What is that?
Right. There are eight goals, eight objectives worldwide, which is one is to reduce infant mortality, reduce maternal mortality, reduce hunger, or eliminate hunger. Actually, and malnutrition, get access to potable water and sanitation. Increase, well, within our hunger program, of course, that deals directly with agriculture, increased agricultural yield. Those are some of the objectives. So it's dealing with human insecurity, especially food insecurity. Infrastructure, education, is it? Education, yes. Increase attendance in schools. Those are an objective, but it's really reduce illiteracy. Increase gender parity, eliminating gender differences, particularly access and education.
To female versus male.
Exactly, etc. So those are across the board the goals that the world set in 2000. And so by 2006, 2005, Haiti had not started to undertake them. Until this day, unfortunately, Haiti still has not planned or has not been planning in 2000. These are time set bounded goals.
Because I was going to ask you, is there a time limit for this?
2015.
2015.
So it started for 2000.
So we have 2 more years.
Yes.
And we have not started yet.
No, unfortunately.
All right. So, is there...
So going back to the watershed, I'm sorry, I didn't answer that. Going back to the watershed, we have across 82 sites across Africa and Asia where we take a village or a section communale or a commune where, so a cluster of a population to say, okay, as a model for national scale up, we're going to try to show you or test out with local knowledge, combined with scientific knowledge, very data-driven, to show how we can get to obtain the Millennium Development Goals. And so when we got to Haiti, when we started one in 2000, right after the earthquake in 2011.
Because I know that affected it in some ways.
Exactly. In 2011, we said we're going to, well, we had goals for it in 2009, and the earthquake happened, and so we started in 2011. Unlike the African villages or the Asian villages, you had to enter development in Haiti through a restoration program. And because usually we take the most difficult places in Africa and Asia, the hunger spots we call them, where we have where the least developed areas, to be able to to show that you can actually scale up when you obtain those goals. The most affected and problematic areas were actually the watersheds, and across Haiti we have over 100 some watersheds that that you had to start developing these villages, taking into consideration that they were embodied around a watershed that was giving them, that was causing most problems for agriculture, from upstream down to downstream.
All right. I have a question within that, because I think the idea that I'm getting into my mind is the impossibility of what can be done. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we will talk about it. We're going to take a short break. I hope you're enjoying this conversation. We'll be right back.
Beyond Focus TV presents
its third annual ceremony on Saturday, June 16, at the prestigious Crystal Manor,
1460 Flatbush Avenue.
Et oui, le samedi 16 juin 2013, venez célébrer tous les papas. Venez manifester votre amour à votre père, mari, frère, cousin ou ami, pourquoi pas.
Who will be Father of the Year?
You must be there to know. La soirée sera animée par la diva Martine Marseille. Come and bask into the artistry of Monvelino Alexis. DJ Duvet sera aussi de la partie pour vous assurer une soirée à nul autre pareil.
Hollywood style.
Lot of surprises, honorees, un grand gala pour honorer tous les pères. Valet parking will be available.
Maîtresse de cérémonie, Angie Daniel, Marie-Carmel Bastien.
Info 917-873-3996 or www.beyondfocustv.com. Papi chéri?
Oui, ma fifi.
I love you. 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 I love you.
Welcome back to Beyond Focus TV. If you are just turning on, we are here having a conversation with Ms. Tatiana Wa. She is the director of Haiti's Research and Policy Program at Columbia University. One of the things we were talking about before we took a break is the importance of having watershed within Haiti's infrastructure, right?
Watershed management.
Right? Water management, basic idea. You were making a point earlier before I took a break, and I wanted you to get back to the point before I asked you my question.
Right. So we undertook this this particular watershed integrated development model in the south of Haiti, where it was one of the most problematic watersheds. This Poapima, actually. It's the watershed of Poapima that gets into Chardonnière in Coteau, in the very south. That's also the passage of your hurricane. That's really at the mouth of your hurricane in the South Department. That's your hurricane trajectory. And so we undertook that work with the UNEP, the UN for Environmental Program. And the idea was, holistically, you couldn't do anything with watershed management unless you did it in an integrated way, in a holistic way. You know, to use a Haitian term, it would be like, you know, washing your hands and putting it back into the dirt. If you dealt with the environment, like let's say reforestation, without plugging in into sort of a job program.
Yeah.
You couldn't do job program without actually providing health, because what we found, in fact, we were, as we were doing our work, we were there when the cholera broke out, right after a major storm, because the watershed,
that's not working properly.
Exactly. And within the watershed, over, I don't know the exact date, but it was really a shocking number. Close to 70% don't have a toilet. or even a latrine. So the river is where right, and when we test river water, it's very toxic. It's with fecal matter, and so that it goes all the way down to the downstream, and in fact. We tested the water entire coast up to Point Sable, which is in Port Salut, where we're supposed to be a very touristic area. The sea is contaminated as well.
But how do we, you see, because for me, like hearing it from a different point of view, because sometimes you hear people say one thing or two, but because this is what you do. You're policymakers, you go and you have data, you have ideas, and then this is what we need to do. You give an idea of what we need to do, but it's not being done. From 2006 to, we are in 2013, and we only have 2 more years to make that change. There is a government in the country. And I think at some point we have to give responsibility to whomever needs to be responsible for what's happening. Why are they not making that change?
Right. So we have to understand it in the context of Haiti being a fragile state, right? Haiti is number 6 according to the Fragile State Index of the Fund for Peace, number 6 in fragile states, right after Afghanistan. You know. And so within that context, it is fragile in all the realm of development dimensions that you can think of. It's fragile politically. You know, through the time that I came, that I was lent to the government, I spent I spanned 4 governments in 3 years. That means 4 different administrations. And every time you start a work with one minister, 3 months later, 2 months later, 1 month later, the minister is no longer there. You have to start all over again. And by the time you start all over again, they're gone. Exactly. Okay. And so that just sort of something that could take you 6 months to get going, it now takes you 2 years, 3 years, and sometimes never, because the priorities also shift.
Yes.
You know, you get natural disasters, which is a constant, right? You've got so that itself breeds conflict because you get into the food insecurity problems, you know, and so spike in prices causes conflict, just the slowness of the development itself, because development is a long-term process. And so you're getting, you're fragile politically, you're fragile institutionally, because 10,000 NGOs are operating without any coordination.
There's more than 10,000. We're not even going to talk about the NGOs, because as a matter of fact, we will talk about them because everybody is responsible for something. But let's continue on the government part first.
Right. So institutionally, your government institutions are not strong enough or capable, and they were incapacitated by the earthquake to begin with. They have not even good offices to work with. Some of them are still under tents, you know, and so that becomes also difficult to operate. And so you're fragile environmentally, spatially, and to me that's fundamentally also that's going to drive both the political fragility and the economic fragility. You're fragile economically also because you import almost everything. And the cost of transportation, because everything has to be shipped. Every time you have a spike on oil, you know, and fuel costs, it just affects everything. Right now, there's a fuel shortage in Haiti because the boats take forever to get there, right? And you have a storage problem. Again, that's an institutional problem. So you're fragile everywhere, right? And so the entry point, of course, is through political leadership, first and foremost, to understand that you can't have an economic development that's sustainable without entering through restoring your ecosystem. Because every time you plant, you know, the government...
Shouldn't that be number 1 thing to do, though?
What?
The ecosystem. Should that be the first?
It has to. Every single program in Haiti, if they don't address the environmental problematic, it's as if they're just losing they're wasting their investment.
So let's go back. We have the government part, which needs to be done, and this is how because number 1 thing is an ecosystem, right? That's number 1 thing we need to do. What about all these different NGOs that are working? You hear everybody's collecting money, everybody's doing something. Collectively, we're not working together. How can we bring the government, NGOs, and the people together? How can we do that? Under what concept can we do that?
Well, usually, like the president of Rwanda has done, you need a strong leadership that puts its foot down and say, these are my plans for my people, for my country, and this is your role and function, and we're going to enforce it. Okay. The way it exists right now is sort of a free-for-all, like you say. It is. There's nothing, they don't respect the Haitian government.
But wait, I have a question with the not respecting the Haitian government, because I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Right? Hold on one second, because we have to take a break now. Yeah. See, I hate asking questions in the middle of taking a break. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back to continue this conversation. We'll be right back.
Beyond Focus TV presents
its third annual ceremony on Saturday, June 16 at the prestigious Crystal Manor,
1460 Flatbush Avenue.
Et oui, le samedi 16 juin 2013, venez célébrer tous les papas. Venez manifester votre amour à votre père, mari, frère, cousin ou ami, pourquoi pas.
Who will be Father of the Year?
You must be there to know. La soirée sera animée par la diva Martine Marseille. Come and bask into the artistry of Monvelino Alexis. DJ Duvet sera aussi de la partie pour vous assurer une soirée à nul autre pareil.
Hollywood style.
Lot of surprises, honorees, un grand gala pour honorer tous les pères. Valet parking will be available.
Maîtresse de cérémonie, Angie Daniel, Marie-Carmel Bastien.
Info 917-873-3996 or www.beyondfocustv.com. Papi chéri?
Oui, ma fifi.
I love you. 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 I love you.
Welcome back to Beyond Focus TV. If you're just turning on, we are here with Ms. Tatiana Wa. She is the director of Haiti Research Program, Policy Program at Columbia University. Before we took a break, we were talking about the difference of NGOs and governments in Haiti, how they're making different changes. And part of what you were saying is how the NGOs, they don't respect the government. But the government in itself, to me, my knowledge, and these are my views, have no respect when it comes to the NGOs. Anybody can do, like you said earlier, it's a free-for-all. If I don't have, if this is my home and I open it to you to allow you to do whatever you so choose to, there's no control, there's no amount. We don't even have policies within the banking system of Haiti. Anybody can come as they so please. So how can I expect you to respect me if I'm not giving you any reasons to respect?
Yeah, well, yeah, but you know, this is a problem for all low-income countries around the world. African governments are suffering through the same thing. A lot of the Asian countries that are very poor, Nepal, Bangladesh, are suffering from the same organizational framework. The third sector, which we call the nonprofit NGOs, is a growing sector. Donors give money to NGOs that don't give money to governments. And so they're allowed to do whatever they want. And on the government side, you would need a strong enforcement agency to actually go after them, right? And that goes for all kinds of sectors, you know, not just the NGO sector. What we don't do in Haiti is having the capacity to enforce our laws. There are laws in the books on NGOs.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's just like almost having a police force. Yes, because there's an enforcement agency. The IRS is going to come after you if you don't do it. We don't have an enforcement agency in Haiti that really would go after them. And to go after them would also means that you have to have a plan already well structured to say this is where you fit, this is where you go, this is how you exactly. And that doesn't exist yet, unfortunately. So until this is done, where you know, to come in, you have to have your license, and your license tells you you operate in an XYZ sector.
Exactly.
And for the government to be able to actually know what to what types of negotiation with donors to do, right? It could say to donors, I know you're operating with NGOs, but these NGOs, I get to pick them actually, or we get to do a process together to procure their services, just like we procure any other service. That's not being done.
Oh my Jesus! I mean, so we have an overview of what's not working within the Haitian government policy system right now for Haiti in terms of economic development, education, water. Where can, besides all of those things, like if we were to erase all of that and we wanted to start over, we wanted to start new, where can we go from here? What would be the first thing that they would need to change to make this country at least start it to a better start? Okay,
first and foremost, I keep arguing, and it ties into all the problematic with the NGOs, is that no one no one really knows anything really about Haiti. Let me explain for a little bit. We have no common database and information systems in the national scale to actually understand what ails each communal section or each commune or each state department in Haiti. So, and we have no set common goals, right? So, development goals. We don't, not
so we need to have data. We need to have goals.
You have to enter that because you cannot, every single NGO or every single agency of the government actually is basing their performance on other things than development goals. Like we're not saying we're going to reduce maternal, mortality by X number between now and 2015 or 2020. And then all the NGOs in health have to, base their objectives on that wherever they're located. That's not being,
and that's how
not
it should
the goal.
Be done.
Exactly.
That's how it should be done.
So first and foremost, understanding where your schools are, where are your clinics, where are your water points, where are your potential for energy is coming from, where are your road networks really, and how are they associated with your settlements? The entire this is the first country that doesn't even understand its assets. So that a university will come down and say, oh, you do have natural gas and oil, but nobody knows what the quantity or the reserve. Oh, you've got gold. Well, where's the gold and how much do you have? And if we do find it, find out, we never have a report to say where we are with it, what
marbles, there's places that have tons of marbles in
So
Haiti.
our natural resources, we don't know where they are and how the government plans to use them and how then that relates to not only job creation but social sector development around an administrative district, for us to be able to do it. Yeah.
Well, it's been a great conversation. If anybody would want to reach out to you in terms, where can they reach you at?
We have my office. You can give them out the number 212-870-2797.
And then Ms. Watt would be able to elaborately explain to you her Haitian, because she's Haitian, the Haitian policies, the Haitian ideas, and not just based on Haiti, but on an international level.
Yes,
right. Well,
certainly.
Thank you, Ms. Watt.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure to do this. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next Tuesday, same place, same time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.